Hello, Meoni here, and welcome back to another summary, this time of the Letter from a Producer Live, part 79, live from the Tokyo Game Show 2023. First of all, we have a trailer opening up the actual live letter itself. There'll be a link in the description, go check that out, it's incredibly impressive. We'll do a separate video analysing that later in the day, but it shows a great amount of patch content, and a lot of it is actually quite spoilery. If you want to avoid that, I know some people do, so let's just move on straight away, but there's lots of MSQ related things shown in that. Yoshi P and Foxclon introduced the live letter live on stage at the Tokyo Game Show 2023, and this live letter features content from patch 6.5, 6.55, as well as some in-game demonstrations. It's a little bit light on content as it is a staged live event, but I was surprised at how much there was. First of all then, let's get the elephant out of the room just straight away. The release date for patch 6.5 is confirmed to be the 3rd of October 2023. This is for the first part, and part 2, as we know, and now get reaffirmed, is 6.55 and comes out mid-January 2024. So October the 3rd, put a marker in your calendars. Bear in mind, this will have 24-hour maintenance. Just if you want to plan around that, I thought that would be worth mentioning. Yoshi P says part 1 will be on the 3rd of October, and then we head to London for EU FanFest, and then Japanese FanFest early in January, and then after that there'll be part 2 of the 6.5 MSQ, 6.55. So a quick recap of 6.5 then. In addition to the split up 2 parts of the MSQ, we also have a reminder of content such as Tataru's Grand Endeavor coming in patch 6.55, the Special Alliance Tribal quest with all of the Arcazadora, Omicron and Laporitz together with those rewards is also in 6.55 with the final chapter of that storyline. Yoshi P says in Shadowbringers we couldn't really do an extra Tribal Alliance quest because of costs and timings, but we had so many requests from around the world that we wanted to do it this time. Hildebrand Adventures, along with the Hildebrand Weapon expansion, comes in 6.55, and of course Splendorous Tools comes out in 6.51, which is actually probably just after FanFest Europe. The new MSQ dungeon, the Lunar Subterrane, is obviously in 6.5 with the storyline, as well as the new trial, the Abyssal Fracture, Normal and Extreme, as well as in 6.5 we have the final part of Myths of the Realm. This is the Alliance raid. Part 3 is obviously known as Thalia, if you didn't know that already, and this features all of the remaining gods and bosses that you would expect. Also, the Unreal Trial of Thordan, known as the Singularity Reactor Unreal, will be added to the game. In 6.51, just after London FanFest, the new Aloalo Island, which is a new variant and Criterion mode dungeon, will be added. Its usual 3 difficulties, variant mode, Criterion Normal and Criterion Savage. They do say, due to feedback from players, the rewards in the works for the Savage mode will actually be useful for increasing item level, so it's actually somewhat beneficial to your character in some way. They don't go into any further detail than that. 6.5 features the final part of the duty support AI party members for the Stormblood expansion. That means that the Drowned City of Scala, the Burn and Gimlet Dark will be finally added to this support system, meaning all of the MSQ from The Realm Reborn through Endwalker will now be completable with Trusts or duty support AI. Additionally, 6.5 comes with job adjustments in both PvP and PvE, which they'll talk about in patch notes later, closer to the patch. PvP updates such as Season 5 of the seasonal rewards, as well as Crystalline Conflict updates, are also mentioned in this live letter we'll talk about in a moment. Island Sanctuary gets its updates in 6.5, featuring new ranks, visions, gathering items, new crops, ironworks, animals, structures, and the Felicitous Favors, which is a new type of quest, which actually gives a new type of currency for new rewards. The Fall Guys collaboration with 14 in the 14 side of things is coming in patch 6.5x. We don't get any date or patch number given for this, but it is rumoured to be announced at London FanFest, and since 6.51 is actually just after FanFest, maybe it will be in that patch, that's my guess. Miscellaneous updates for the patch include new custom delivery client, new consecutive ethereal reduction function for collectibles, a green dot indicator on newly logged fish in the fish guide, and the ability to store optional items from the cash shop inside your armoire, which is probably one of the most sought after updates. There will also be the option to sort teleport destinations by the expansion they came out on the teleport menu, and a new reward mount will be available for collecting all of the trial mounts in the 6.x series, including the new trial. 6.5 also features the item level restriction implementation for the Alliance Raid Duty Roulette. This is now based on level rather than your gear, so no more Circus Tower cheese, thank goodness. EXP and Elegant Tome rewards for each Alliance raid is actually getting boosted in relation to this, and this is going to be based on the difficulty and time required for their actual individual completion. Next, we get a good look at the upcoming schedule for the game. This time showing the release point of all of the announced content thus far. Much of this we already knew, but it's nice to see it kind of visualized with this infograph. 6.51, as we said, will just be straight after London FanFest, which, as we said, is probably going to include the Fall Guys collab. Yoshi P says, and I quote, new updates for 7.0 will be shown during the London FanFest later in October, end quote, if you are any doubt about that. Okay, now the recap's over. Let's go through the new content. 6.5 will have job adjustments. They won't go into much detail here, but the adjustments made in 6.5 to balance damage output between jobs within each role will be the focus. Most of this will be potency increases for certain job actions. The Yoshi P says, in 7.0, the max level for jobs and rotations will obviously change. That's why in this patch we did not do any major changes that change this rotation. We have focused on the damage balance within a role, end quote. And that's it for that slide. There's not much else to talk about. Now they move on immediately to talk about the Abyssal Fracture, the new trial associated with the patch 6.5 main storyline where you face off against Zeramus. They go into the game itself to show us some of the fight. It's actually a wall boss, commenting that there are no positional requirements, so a lot of people will be happy about that. Featuring a wonderful looking cracked arena, obviously a platform you can fall off, and a fantastic background audio designed for this. Beautiful. We also get to see the EXP bar in here for level 91. It will actually cost approximately, if this is correct at the time of release, 13.3 million experience points to get from level 90 to 91 in Dawntrail. If you wanted an idea of scale for the next expansion, I think that's a good place to start. The fight itself looks pretty interesting. Lots of it reminds me of Hades as I watch this. It's very cool. Yoshi P says there might be a debuff you haven't seen in a while. Don't be nervous and move too quickly. There is no fence there, so there might be something trying to knock you back, end quote. So obviously lots of knockbacks. Now we look at the Crystalline Conflict updates. This is actually showing off the new UI elements and adjustments to the UI and minimap, as well as the new Red Sands map coming in 6.51. For the UI then, this features new settings to permanently display affiliated team on the left of the minimap and or your heads-up display. A new line on the field, physically shown, indicates the comeback point. This is how far the losing team must progress to actually turn the tide of battle. It makes it easier to instantly see how far you have to go to counter a win without looking at the bar at the top of the screen, which should save you some time. Yoshi P says we got feedback that it is sometimes difficult to see and lose track of which team you're actually on when you just look at the UI, so now you can have that fixed on the left side, end quote. More adjustments include a new setting to display a countdown timer 10 seconds prior to the commencement of overtime. The progress gauge is being enhanced to show the winning team indicator with a flashing background, the comeback point also on this, and a more visible checkpoint clear progress, so the gauge itself will be easier to see. Also, during overtime itself, an overtime gauge will appear on screen. This indicates how long the losing team can remain away from the crystal itself before the match ends. Previously, this was quite tricky to kind of guess. Also, effects from certain actions, pets, etc. are adjusted to indicate more clearly between an enemy and an ally. They show them with very different colors. For example, all of the enemy stuff is red, and all of the ally stuff should be blue or light colored, as you can see here with both Sky Shatter and the Bishop auto turret being demonstrated. Yoshi P comments it isn't on this list, but the same adjustments are placed for Bahamut too. These adjustments aren't just limited to Crystalline Conflict, but will also show in other PvP modes too, end quote. The new map coming in 6.51 is set in a desert, as you would probably guess. They show it in the game here. The map features sand paths to slide down, healing areas they call the Oasis with grass. It says, Yoshi says, when you're in the green zone, we call this the Oasis, there is a regen buff that ticks for 7,500 HPS, and even when you leave the zone, it gives you a 30-second regen buff, end quote. And as you can also see, the new markers here show the comeback point for the match, and the new timer counting down the overall timer as well for the overtime. Very simple, but quite effective changes. There are also environmental dangers with this new map, as usual with this kind of innovation. This time, water spurting forward from the sand that sends you flying, as well as sand that pulls you into a monster's nest, it was described, which knocks out a character if you don't use a shield. And sabotenders can pop up out of the desert, hitting people nearby with their 10,000 needles, which will kill a player. You cannot shield to protect yourself from this, but Yoshi P says, whilst you cannot guard these needles, you can share the damage as 2 tanks, for example, end quote. So that's interesting. In addition to all of the sand paths come the speed paths from other maps. They also exist here. But all in all, it looks really quite well fleshed out with lots of technical aspects and the usual map design polish that we come to expect. The PvP rewards themselves then, with the new PvP series starting. This is a brand new outfit, your main reward from this. Very similar to earlier outfits in many ways, but very PvP centered, as you can see. It reminds me a lot of the bar guest outfit and things like that. I like it personally, you might disagree. Then we also see these outfits, which are rewards as part of the Trophy Crystal Exchange. Trophy Crystals, as you know, are obtained from doing Crystalline Conflict wins and losses, and your progression of your series, basically, and unlocking ranks, which look quite sporty this time around. That's where you'll get those. Now on to Myths of the Realm. We're inside Thalia here. The last part of the Myths of the Realm raid storyline and Alliance raid series. Yoshi P says, as mentioned earlier, we've followed the 12 in this series, but anyone that has followed the story closely might be wondering how we're going to fill the last 24 man. Usually we have 4 bosses, ... end quote. So obviously there's some sort of idea that maybe we'll be facing all of them at once if you watch the trailer. The fight looks pretty visually, sort of stunning. Well, I say fight, the raid itself, rather. Fighting for a lot of mobs. Yoshi P has God mode turned on and proceeds through the raid, showing us the first boss of the raid revealed to be Thaliak, featuring a platform that you can fall off. Yoshi P mentions how they tried to make Thaliak look handsome, which is incredible, really, isn't it? Which the boss makes use of then, this platform. There's lots of knockbacks and water AoEs that you would imagine. Yoshi P says, since Thaliak is a scholar, you might have to use your brain a lot in this fight. We're not going as far as sine, cosine, or tangent, but some triangles might be falling, end quote. Oh boy, it's going to be construct all over again. And that's all they tease, but already it's looking pretty good, and I think that's more than enough. A quick look at some of the gear then from the raid. They don't show all of it off, but they show the tanks off, which looks very similar to earlier sets. I think that's fair to say. The ranged set, the scouting set third, and finally they show off the caster set. They don't actually show any more sets, only those so far. So moving on to housing rewards. First, they show a lovely flower carpet you may have seen somewhere before. They say that'll be available for indoors placement. And then some outdoor items. They actually made this step ladder to access your roof. Presumably, they know that people love making ways to get on top of the roofs of their buildings, so they decided to offer this, which is awesome. Additionally, this is awesome. The Magitech repair station outdoors building sort of thing for your outdoor spaces. It looks incredible. I want this so bad. I don't know if it comes with the Magitech armor or if that's, I presume it does. So on to new glamour then. This is a form of sort of like workout gear or something. I couldn't put a finger on it personally. There's no mention of where this is from, although Island Sanctuary is a good guess, maybe. And then they show this incredible glam. So oh boy, There's so much to read from this. But look at the little adorable paw gloves, as well as the hat, obviously. Holy moly, I really need that. It's said to actually be from Island Sanctuary. They do say it won't be in 6.5, so probably later. At least that's what I read. So they're giving us the felicitous furball glam, if it was any question about that. I actually asked for this a long time ago, going, oh, I would love to dress up as the felicitous furball. I want that hat so bad. And that looks like we're getting it. So yeah, very cool. Very, very cool. And finally, for glams, we have the Kappa suit. Obviously, Kappa is, a folklore thing in Japan. It is just perfection, isn't it? It really is. Yoshi says that should be it for updates, but since we have the live demo, let's show off some mounts. First then, a pixie mount that carries you as the actual, as the mount itself, carrying you around. Yoshi says this new fairy will appear in some sort of content in 6.5x, but is no relation to the other fairies, end quote. So, who knows where this is going to be from? Honestly, there's a lot of content to kind of pick from this from. Maybe even the island. I don't know. Who knows? Then a minion then. This is a giant floating head that screams kind of like with an idle animation when it opens its eyes and mouth with bright yellow light coming forth. Then there's a minion of a mammoth from Island Sanctuary, presumably with a lifesaver sort of ring, which is hilarious. And then we get a Lunar Sabatender mount. If you've always gone to the moon and gone, I want that as a mount, well, there you go. It also does this kind of like leg thing, like a dancing thing as it flies through the air, which is amazing. Then we show off another bike mount. This is very clearly from Island Sanctuary. This time it's similar to the other bike mounts, but it's red. And they've kind of tried to make it look a little bit more like a tractor, like a bike tractor, because it's got like farm equipment on the back, which is, it's interesting. The farm equipment actually spins like a plowshare or something like that. And then finally, we've got the UFO mount. So obviously, this is going to be from Hildebrand. It looks awesome. Don't expect this until 6.55, though, I would imagine, because that's when the next content for that's coming out. It's just... why would we not get that? It's brilliant. We've got the minion, now we've got the mount. It's perfection. It's exactly what we wanted. Yoshi P says there's a lot in 6.5. I couldn't even touch on the Fall Guys rewards yet, but we'll show those during FanFest, end quote, so if you wondered where those were. Back to the PowerPoint then, they have one more announcement unrelated to 6.5. They say, and I quote, queues during our last expansion release were bad. Once you dropped it out of it, it was hard to get back in. So the planned server infrastructure then are as follows. In the interest in expanding our server infrastructure options in the future, they're taking cloud data centers into consideration. A North American cloud data center will be temporarily implemented for the purposes of a public stress test. This will be somewhere in the 6.5x series. They want this data center to be selectable during 6.5's release, and it will be available once the test commences. More details will be posted on the Lodestone and talked about at a later date about those tests. So essentially they want to alleviate the stress on the servers, make it so that more people can play, and it looks like they're looking into cloud servers because it might be a solution to do that. So I don't know enough about that tech to comment, but maybe you know more in the comments below. Yoshi P says, and I quote, there is more to come that we'll implement in the 6.5x series, and some of it is announced during FanFest, end quote. And now then, finally for the announcements, first the KFC collab with 14 is actually more than just chicken. It actually features Colonel Sanders in the game. In this picture, they made like a glamour, basically. But this is a Japanese event where you can get eating from a bucket of chicken as an emote. This starts on October the 4th, and you can exchange stickers from buying chicken in exchange for the emote. This is confirmed to be Japan only, but there's no confirmation whether or not the code itself will be region locked. It very likely will, considering a lot of other things have been, but it's always worth having a bit of optimism. There are no listed information on any dates or release plans for anywhere else in the world. So it might be something to grumble about or to look into. Maybe we can get the codes elsewhere. Who knows? Anyway, next we have the tabletop RPG. We talked about this before in a previous video. This brings the Dungeons & Dragons style playbooks and roleplay tabletop adventures to the world of Eorzea with custom dice and books and adventures, playmats, that kind of thing. This is scheduled to release next year in May. I'm excited for that. The 10th anniversary fireworks, they've already had one of those. This time it's in the Kanto region. This live in person, when I looked at it on social media from people's recordings on their phone, looked incredible. If I lived there, I'd be going. It's that good. It's on a beach too this time, which should be incredible for those who can attend. The 6.5 patch notes will be available sometime on October the 2nd or just before, and on the 2nd, Yoshi P and Foxclone will broadcast their usual patch note readings. So this patch will have a 24-hour maintenance, as we said at the start of this video, but you might want to plan around that if you're taking time off, which is never a good idea for patches, in my opinion. At least know that there's a 24-hour maintenance for this, and there might be delays. Finally, they mentioned the expanded free trial, which should definitely be tried if you're somehow watching this video and still haven't given it a go yet, or get your friends to try it up to level 70 in 6.5 onwards. FanFest dates are shown with details and links that they show that you can type in and follow on screen. But all in all, a fairly great live letter during sort of like a time I didn't expect anything. Tokyo Game Show, it's hard to imagine how much planning goes into live letters and to, you know, do stuff in the game and talk about things at the same time rather than just, you know, have stuff on a PowerPoint is really nice. They put a lot of effort into this one. It was a little bit light on news, but I think the majority of content we knew about. It was just the finer details, and yeah, that's the letter from a producer live part 79. Hopefully that was helpful. Thank you once again to the Reddit subreddit for Final Fantasy XIV for posting unofficial translations. I will use those in this video. Very helpful. Go support them. And thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this scratched that itch if you were looking for a summary. I know we're 21 minutes in, but the event itself was a couple of hours. So much love. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.